We will call the organizational meeting for calendar year 2015 to order. Hope everybody had a happy New Year and holiday season. It's good to be back. Our first order is the election of chairman, and we will be accepting nominations for chairman for the 2015 year.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Mr. Calvin Taylor as chairman.
We have Mr. Taylor as nominated for chairman. Are there any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Mr. Seeley.
Are there any other nominations for chairman? A motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
Does it need to be second?
I don't think that there needs to be a second to close the
Okay.
nominations. I don't think so. We just close, and then we'll just have a vote on the first and/or second and see where we go.
Okay.
All right, all in favor of Mr. Taylor being chairman, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Division in the House. Mr. Thomas
The question was,
was for chairman for Mr. Taylor. How did you vote?
I did not vote.
No vote. All right. Mr. Black.
Nay.
Mr. Underwood.
Aye.
Mr. Akers.
Aye.
Mr. Seeley.
Nay.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
And Mr. Thomas did not vote, so
You have to vote.
Don't we vote for either or?
I would think you would have to vote. If you don't vote, then the vote is 3-2 in favor of the motion.
Then don't we vote for Mr. Seeley?
I've never run into this situation. Do you have any answers? Yes, we have a nomination for Calvin Taylor and for Mr. Seeley for chairman. So we have two. So I was starting with the first one I received a nomination for to see how the vote was.
I think he's right.
You asked,
I
right?
think you got to vote both.
That's why I said I didn't vote.
Okay, okay. Motion. All right. All right, so we will do that. All in favor of Mr. Seeley for being chairman. And we'll just do a roll call, seeing as how it's pretty much division in the House. Mr. Thomas.
Voted aye.
Mr. Black.
Aye.
Mr. Underwood.
Nay.
Mr. Akers.
Nay.
Right passage, y'all can vote. Mr. Seeley.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Nay.
All right, well, that's 3-3. The first one is 3-2. If you didn't vote. I mean, it's three affirmative votes for Calvin Taylor. And
I mean, I'm not the chairman. I'm not going to tell you how to run the meeting. I did what I was supposed to do.
both candidates have received 3 affirmative votes. Well, that's what that's. Are there any further considerations for nominations? That is a tie.
Mr. Chairman, is it, Mr. Miller, can we go and have a second round of voting?
Yes.
Or do we have to make the nominations a second
I
time?
would make a motion to nominate someone and vote on that motion.
I make a motion that we nominate Mr. Calvin Taylor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion for Mr. Taylor to be chairman for this calendar year, signify by saying aye.
I'll break the
Aye.
Division in the House, Mr. Thomas,
I'll break the tie. Aye.
Mr. Black,
Nay.
Mr. Underwood,
Aye.
Mr. Akers,
Aye.
Mr. Seeley,
Nay.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-2. And I will gladly pass the gavel of this meeting to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and thank the board for supporting me in this effort. Our next order of business is to elect a vice chairman. So we now will entertain nominations for vice chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Mr. Seeley for Vice Chair.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, then we will entertain a motion to
Move
close.
nominations be closed.
Been moved and proper second. Can we get a second?
Second.
Been moved and proper second that the nomination be closed on that name. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Mr. Seeley is vice chairman. All right, our next order of business is the adoption of the rules of order. And I think they are pretty much the same as they have been in the past, unless there are some changes. We could entertain a motion to adopt the rules of order as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Been moved and properly second that we adopt the rules of order as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. We will now look at the schedule of regular board meetings for 2015. The only change basically is being the November meeting. The first meeting has been moved because of the VACO conference, and that is presented in the list already. So we can entertain a motion to accept the schedule of board meetings for 2015.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Been moved and properly second that we accept the regular board meeting for 2015 as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. The next order of business basically talks about the Board of Supervisors appointments and the various boards that we serve on. As chairperson, the only one that I would like to serve on, or that I would actually serve on, would be the Social Services Board, and that is because there have been some changes over there, and I have served on the board, on the Social Services Board, both as a supervisor and as a member of the board for 8 years, and so I would like to be able to keep the board informed, and I can do that certainly as chairperson. So I would like to serve on that board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Calvin Taylor be appointed to the Social Services Board for
Is there a
calendar year
second?
2015.
Second.
We properly seconded. Calvin Taylor would serve as the board member on the Social Services Board. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Underwood be appointed to the Rappahannock Area on Aging Board.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that Mr. Underwood will serve on the Rappahannock Board on Aging. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Okay.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Mr. Black and Mr. Seeley be reappointed to the George Washington Regional Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that Mr. Black and Mr. Seeley would be reappointed to the Rappahannock Regional Board Commission. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, then the motion carries. Okay, I think that takes care of
Mr.
it.
Taylor, I'd like to be reappointed to the Fredericksburg Chamber Military Affairs Council.
Okay. All right, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Seeley would be reappointed to the Military Affairs Council. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries.
You have one more left.
And the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance.
Mr. Chairman, I've served on that for 2 years. If you would like to reappoint me, I'd serve, but if you want someone
Okay.
else, that's fine as well.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, then it's been moved and seconded that Mr. Akins would serve on the Regional Alliance, or go back to the Regional Alliance. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. That takes care of appointments, and we can now...
How about the
Oh, I'm
Rappahannock
sorry.
Disability Services Board? That's
Oh, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Water.
I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself. Okay,
We got this one left.
You did the river basin.
And the Rappahannock Commission.
okay.
Those two.
All right, the Rappahannock Area on Aging, we did that one. That was...
Yeah.
No, you did social services. You did.
No, Underwood.
Yeah,
Mr.
but Mr.
Underwood is-
Mr. Underwood
Oh,
said he
Area on
wanted to
Aging,
serve there.
okay.
So it's the Rappahannock River Basin Commission, I believe, is the only one.
Mr. Chairman, I've served on the past. I enjoy that commission, so if you don't mind, I'll
Second, Mr. Black.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Black would return to the Rappahannock River Basin Commission. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. Okay, having done that, I think that takes care of all of the appointments, and we can now close the organizational meeting. And I will now call the regular board meeting to order. And since this is the first meeting, I'll do the invitation. If we could just bow our heads, stand if you are able. Our Father in heaven, we come to thee at this hour, thanking thee for all thy blessings, thanking thee for this opportunity to meet and discuss those things that prove to be of interest to the citizens of Caroline. We ask that you would give us wisdom and knowledge and help us to make those decisions that prove to be in our best interest. These and all the blessings we ask in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
If we could turn for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Are there amendments to the agenda?
Just a minute, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. If there are no amendments to the agenda, then the agenda will stand approved as presented. That brings us to opening board comments. Mr. Thomas, do you have any at this time?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the board met, or our two-on-two met last week with the school board. Mr. Seeley was unable to be there, but Mr. Cully, Dr. Kelo, Mr. Spalding, and Mrs. Carson met. From that, we expect the school projects to begin in late May. They're going to have their bids out, I think, in March. They are also looking at the teacher salary scale and the number that would be required to fund that. And they, well, of course, with the superintendent leaving and with those projects, I think that was the genesis of the request later for a joint meeting next week. And as last act, I posted a State of the County address on the website. Mr. Cully is actually correcting my grammar on the second version, so that'll be there. Content was my thing, grammar never wasn't. And then last, I would like to see if staff could schedule a community meeting for me at the Visitor Center on the 29th at 7 o'clock. And I don't think that conflicts with the HOA meeting. I think that's the week before, but if it does, let me know. I think that's what I would like to do. And last is there's a Martin Luther King program at Second Mount Zion in Dawn next Sunday at 4 o'clock. I don't know if the rest of the board got an invitation, but I got one, so I wanted to share it. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I just have a few. First of all, I'd like to welcome my dad here. He's all the way from Maine to watch this, so I feel bad for him in some ways, but anyway. Next thing, I just want to make a couple comments. February 7th, inside Lake Landor, the Polar Bear Plunge, which Lake Landor has been hosting over the last couple of years. We'll be back there, and so they're taking donations, and those donations, Wrights Chapel, St. Mary's Catholic Church, those go to Heat Homes and for the food bank in Caroline County. Also on Thursday, February 19th, at 6 and 7:30, I will be having Congressman Whitman. We have to finalize this tentative. Mr. Parton, I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to the church yet, but it's tentative for Thursday, February 19th, 6 o'clock at County Line Baptist, and then 7:30 in the Heritage Clubhouse in Lake Landor. That will be with Congressman Rob Whitman, as well as Delegate Buddy Fowler and myself. Finally, just one other comment, and just kind of, I know staff has been working on it. Have we made any progress yet with Comcast as far as the broadcast? We have made no progress.
Mr. Black, I've been advised by Marie Schuler of Comcast that they are working on that and have asked several times about the status and have not heard anything back yet at this point, other than their technical staff is going to advise us how to proceed from here.
Okay, thank you. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Underwood?
Just two comments, Mr. Chairman. Over the last several weeks, I've had the opportunity to attend several constituent meetings, one in Mr. Thomas's district, one in my district, regarding a presentation by the proposed Caroline Recycling Company that wanted to present some information regarding a possible landfill in the Reedy Church district. We had great turnout, which I think is good, and I think that's the way things should occur, is that we have large turnout. My concern is the level of disrespect that we show visitors into the county, whether we agree or disagree. It was just appalling, and I was very disappointed by many of the citizens to attend. I hope that you understand better the process by which anyone can come into Caroline County and ask to be heard if they want to bring a business in. Then we, the board, listen to the constituents, and we vote accordingly. Sometimes you have all the facts, sometimes you don't. But to be disrespectful of people is just appalling, and I was very disappointed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have Mrs. Hall. I'm going to be in Lake Caroline Monday, the 19th, at their regular board meeting, but I'm also going to have presentations to people there. But I'd also like to have a meeting in Ladysmith Village, and I usually meet at the library, and also at the firehouse. I don't know whether that's still available. I know they've done some changes at the firehouse, so that may not be available now. So just set it up for Ladysmith Village at the, and we can just invite everybody outside of Lake Caroline to attend that. And I'd like to do that the third week, the fourth week of January, or the first week of February.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Akers?
No, that's it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mr. Seeley, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, I have no comments this evening. Thank you.
Okay. All right. The only comment that I would have is that, as chairman, I would like to see if staff could speak with the chairman of the school board. I would like to have an opportunity to sit down with the chairman, and since the superintendent is leaving, I don't know if he would be interested in that, or if there is someone else they would like to bring. I would like Mr. Akers, if he's available, to also come. I just want to try to get a head start, I guess, if you will, on what areas they would like to identify as far as the budget is concerned. Talk about whatever issues that we may be able to talk about to strengthen the relationship. I just believe that education is the key to success, and I think board members up here feel that way. And one of the ways to do that, I believe, is through positive communication, and I would like to get a start in that direction. Thank you. That brings us to...
Mr. Chairman, before we go to that, I have some mail that's addressed to the chairman I'd like to pass to you. It's from Columbia Gas about their new rate request.
Okay. Thank you.
So I know how much we look alike, but I'll be passing you a lot of things.
I bet you will. Thank you. That takes us to the first agenda item, which is the continuing discussion of the VDOT bridge and replacement projects. I see Mr. Nelson is here.
Good evening, Chairman.
Good
Members of the
evening,
board.
Mr. Nelson. How are you today?
I'm doing all right.
All right. We had talked at our last meeting, I believe the bridge on 606, as well as the bridge on, is it 721?
722.
I'm 722.
Nelson L. Road.
And, okay, so I guess I'll just kind of let you want to start first, or do you?
Yeah, I had distributed some information to the county staff regarding the differences between the projects if they were closed or if they were kept open. And I just wanted to kind of give the board an idea of what those differences were. Kind of last time we had talked about Route 606. If the road is closed during construction, the detour length will be 20 miles. The duration for that detour will be 90 days. And the project will actually take 125 days to complete, and at a cost of $2.1 million. If the roadway is held open for the entire project, there will be no detour length. The project will take 270 days and cost approximately $3 million. The Route 722 project, for a full road closure, the detour length is 5 miles. The detour duration will be 75 days, so we'll have a detour in place for 75 days. The project itself will take 125 days and will cost approximately $2.4 million. If we keep the road open, there will be no detour, of course. The project will take 270 days to complete and cost $3.1 million, which is $754,000 more than closing the road down for a 5-mile detour. So both the projects are currently underfunded. The condition of the bridges are deteriorating at a rapid rate. As of right now, the bridges are not posted. Our structures and bridge section has gone out and done a preliminary review of these structures as a part of these projects. They could be potentially posted at 14 tons. At this point in time, they aren't, but in the future, they could be. So any help in savings on any of these projects would help us try to meet that 2015 December add date.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I have it. If we talk about leaving the road open for 606, we're talking another $1 million.
We're talking $863 million, yes.
Okay, all right, and for 722, if we leave it open doing construction,
It's going to cost $754,000 extra.
addition. Board members, Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nelson, you said in your presentation just now that the projects were not funded?
The projects are currently underfunded, so we're trying to find money to fund these projects.
By underfunded, what do you mean?
As in, to meet our add date with the estimates that we have right now, we don't
I mean,
have,
a lot underfunded,
we're talking around the range
$300,000
of,
underfunded?
we're talking in the range of $500,000, $600,000.
Underfunded.
Yes.
So you can't even do the 2.1 million now?
We can't, we're trying to find additional funds for that.
Okay. And the other thing you said was the add date is December 15.
2015, yes.
So,
We're developing these whether or not we have full funds or not to go to construction. We're developing them to meet that date so that we have plans in hand.
so we're talking about something that's basically a year off.
Yes.
So when we talk about schools being closed and things like that, you're not going to advertise until December, which means you probably won't start construction until March of 16.
Supposedly, yes, in the springtime.
Okay. And then you also sent us an email and gave us something about the bridge on 721?
Yes, and we can
that you
talk
have to
about,
close? Okay, you're going to do that later?
yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood what the parameters were of the bridge closing, and we're probably just as short on the 722 project?
Well, there's a shortage. The way we're planning to do this project, we're going to bundle both of these projects together at one time, have one contractor mobilized to do both of them. So any savings we can get on keeping one open versus closing both of them will help us try to accelerate this more. And once we pin down what our final delta cost is, we're going to go to try to find that money to get this done advertised by December 2015.
Okay. And the last question is, there's no county funding involved in this. It's all state funding.
All state funds.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Mr. Black?
Just had a quick question on that. As far as the funding, when would we know, as far as the funding is concerned, when it would become in?
We would hopefully try to have a good idea sometime by spring of the year as far as we're going to find out with funding. After the 6-year plan is done, we'd more than likely know.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Nelson, I heard you mention that you're going to talk about the 721 bridge later. Would that be bundled in as well, or would that just be a separate?
That's going to be a separate issue.
Separate total issue altogether?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'm hearing you say is that we need to think about whether we want 90 days of detours for folks, it looks like you said, a 20-mile detour on 606 for 125 days, or we want to use the bridge during construction for 270 days with detour lanes. Is that what you're saying?
What would happen is for that stage construction, we'd have it down to one lane and we would control it with the signal.
Correct.
So you would have access on that road going
Correct.
through the entire time.
But again, that's a 270-day project,
Mm-hmm.
which is, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No more questions.
Mr. Akers?
Mr. Nelson, Mr. Thomas was asking about the funding, and you indicated that you were trying to find roughly $500,000, $600,000 to meet the 2.1. So it's roughly a $900,000 gap there
It's quite,
that you've got to find. So you've got to find $1.5 million to make it a viable project.
the actual, well, it's not, we know both of them are a viable project. The thing is, we're
Well,
trying
a
to.
go project. I
Yeah,
should say.
we're trying to find additional funds now throughout our bridge maintenance program to compensate for these projects. And like I said, anything that we can do to reduce the cost on this, we're not asking for both of them to be open. If we can just have one to be closed for the duration, it's going to help us. And I talked to my bridge engineer staff before this meeting, and they indicated that we are fully pressing to try to get this done to advertising by December 2015, because if we leave it there any longer, we'll end up posting the bridge and it could go out of service on its own.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Mr. Seeley?
My only question is if we didn't detour one, is that going to be enough? If we didn't detour, if we closed 722, would that delta funding from that be enough to cover both costs?
It won't be enough to cover both of it, but it'll be a whole lot easier for us to find the additional funds instead of both.
And it won't have any, how much effect does this have on the 721 bridge? I know we're
Zero.
not there. Okay,
Zero.
thank you.
Okay, so I guess my question is, when do you need a definitive answer from the board? And I say that because my concern really is whether or not we would be able to leave 606 open and, deal with the traffic signal.
Well, based on past history, and I think we as the department are aware that closing 606, a major thoroughfare, is a major ordeal.
Right.
And we agree with the last time we closed at CSX for the rail crossing for a detour for them to do that, it was a big ordeal.
Right.
We get that.
Okay.
But 722 detours plan is a 5-mile detour on a loop road.
Okay. So what is it especially that you need from us now?
I would just like to hear potentially the board to say yay or nay to agreeing with closing 722 or 606. And from that point, we'll go forward with developing the projects in that manner.
Okay. All right, and then I will say, how does the board wish to deal with that? situation. I'll start up this end. Oh, well,
However you want to do it.
Mr. Sealy?
Mr. Taylor, it's your district, and in the discussions, I've heard you say that 722 is probably, and I have to agree, having lived down at that end of the county before, that detour in 722 makes a lot of sense, and not closing 606. I think with the delta in the funding, that's probably what's going to have to be done.
From the board, does the rest of the board basically see that? I certainly don't want 606 closed. That would just be traumatic. So having heard,
I mean, are you asking for more opinions?
not at this point.
Okay. Because, well, go ahead.
Okay. All right, at this rate then, I would say that we need to go ahead with the closing of 722.
Well, I'm going to be against that, though, Mr. Chairman. That's why I asked if you were going to say more opinions, because we're basically saying it's all state money.
Well,
It's the state's job to take care of the roads, and we're going to inconvenience all of our citizens no matter what we do, and we've just put in a lot of input into the Milford Industrial Park, which is going to be right there with trucks and commerce. So we're not really making a choice of just our citizens, but we're making a choice of our commerce and our business. You know, we have a lot of impact there with running gas there. So let the state do what the state's supposed to do.
I will just add to that I kind of agree with you, but if the condition of the bridge and we don't get a replacement, the bridge could be posted at less than legal limit, which would also impact the industrial area also.
Let the state do what the state's supposed to do.
and I guess my concern is either the funds are there or they're not. If the funds are not there to do that, you know, I can sit here and say, let's do that, but if there is no funds to do it and the project is held up, then we're still suffering from that. The bridge becomes unsafe, and then we're getting into safety concerns. I have no problem with letting the state do what the state says do, but there's only so much money, and if you say to me that the funds are not there, I would rather see one road closed and the other one open, and we go on with the project, eliminating the safety concerns by going on dealing with the project as soon as possible. That's my concern along those lines.
Okay.
So having said that, you know, I would think that our best bet would be to close 722. Yes.
Can we just call for a vote?
Okay. All right.
Proposal one is that we close,
Okay, proposal one is that we leave open 606 and we close 722. All right,
Is that a motion?
yes.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Who made the motion? Who made the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, it's been moved
And I'll
by
second
Mr.
it.
Akers and second by Mr. Black that we go with the first projection, which is to leave 606 open and close 722. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay?
The motion carries 4-1. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just one question for Mr. Nelson. But that doesn't stop you from continuing to look for the money
No.
to keep,
We're always looking.
I mean, okay, I just want to make sure that it's not an out for you.
No, it's not an out. This
that
is,
you
this
still
is,
continue to
this
make
is
sure-
something to help us close that gap a little bit closer as far as how much funds we have to look for.
Right. Because we're willing to work with you, and we understand the safety issue. If you close the bridge, certainly, so we've already voted, but I just want to make sure that you
Yeah.
continue to look
Oh,
for money.
And that's the logical thing to do, but I can't sit here and say close the bridge where it's near business and commerce.
I understand that.
So,
For 5 miles, not a bad detour.
Okay.
no, and they're not going to have enough money anyhow, because they're cutting funding down.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Okay.
Okay.
I wanted to give you all a brief update on the Route 721
Okay.
issue. We actually had to go out and we've had an inspection on that bridge, and we've deemed that we need to move faster than what our current schedule is. So we'll be replacing a temporary bridge on Route 721. That temporary bridge will be able to carry legal loads, which is one thing. The bridge is currently posted at 14 tons. But in order to get that temporary bridge in, which will also be utilized during the construction of the project to keep that traffic on 721 open, we're going to have to close down the road for a minimum of 2 weeks. in order to get that bridge in. So we're hoping to have that done sometime in mid-February. We put out an emergency contract to procure a bridge to put in place of that existing bridge to have one-way traffic on it. This is something that we didn't want to do, but the bridge, we feel that more than likely what has worsened the condition of the bridge is that we've had vehicles not really obeying the posted limit on the bridge, going back and forth, and it has really taken its wear on that bridge. So we're trying to move forward with accelerating this project, and the good thing about it is that the funds that we're utilizing right now to try to buy this temporary bridge will help offset the cost of the bridge project itself. This project is being funded out of King and Queen fully on their secondary 6-year plan. So we hope that it will impact the citizens for a short duration, but hopefully in the long run, it will help us accelerate this project and get it done.
And you said that'll take about 2 weeks?
At a minimum.
Okay. And when do you, and again, when do you plan to?
Well, as of right now, we're trying to procure the bridge, and we're hoping to have that sometime in February. So as soon as we get the procurement done and get the bridge in our possession, we're going to issue a news release, and I will update all of you all as far as when that will happen.
Okay.
We're going to post a detour route, and the county and the citizens will have an opportunity to see that detour route before the bridge is closed. There's going to also be a public hearing on, I believe, February 24th. So potentially while the bridge is closed, being worked on, we'll be having a public hearing regarding the actual project itself. And that public hearing will be held at Lawson Marriott School from 5 to 7 o'clock on February the 24th.
Okay. Are there other questions from Mr. Nelson regarding?
One quick one.
Okay.
Mr. Nelson, the bridge at 721, isn't that the same kind of bridge that we have on the other projects you're talking about?
I don't believe so. I'm not aware of the type of bridge on the other projects. As far as I know, this bridge on 721 is actually, that bridge was built in 1952. So I'm not sure the age of the other ones, but this is a fairly old bridge on 721.
Okay.
The condition of the 721 bridge is far worse than the condition of the other two bridges that we're talking about. But we don't want those two bridges to get to that point.
And there is a bridge maintenance group at VDOT, right?
There's a bridge maintenance group with a huge responsibility of maintaining all these bridges, and we do a whole lot of it with our own state forces too.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Are there other questions?
Mr. Nelson, it's not a question, it's a comment. I just wanted to thank you. Driving home from work today, I saw the trash pickup had gone from basically Spotsylvania County line to Lake Landor, so I appreciate that. Are they going to be picking up the other side real soon?
We got pulled off of that today because we're getting ready for the snow
Snow,
tomorrow. So
right.
they were actually planning to get it done today, but they weren't able to. So it'll probably be next week before they get it up,
Okay.
the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you extend that a little further back towards 207?
639, 207.
I was nice, Sean. Come on.
Let me know where you're talking about and we can,
From 639 just to Madison School at least?
okay. 639. Okay.
Okay. Other questions? If not, thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you.
That takes us to appointments, Board of Zoning Appeals at large, Mr. Leo Satterwhite. Is there a motion to approve the at-large member?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Leo, of course, was the Madison District Board of Zoning Appeals appointee for many years, and with the redistricting, I think he's either in Jeff Black's district or maybe Mr. Underwood's district. I'm not sure, but I know he's out of Madison District. But I think he does a tremendous job. He did a tremendous job, worked well with the other members of the Board of Zoning Appeal, and unless other board members have someone else they'd like to, I'd make a motion that we'll reappoint Leo Satterwhite. He has shown a willingness to serve again.
Is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and properly second that we would reappoint Mr. Leo Satterwhite as the at-large member on the Board of Zoning Appeals. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries unanimously. That takes us to the Recreation Advisory Committee. Mr. Akins, do you have someone for that committee?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anyone yet, but
Okay.
I'm looking.
All right. Okay, also the Board of Assessors,
I do.
Madison, Mattapanai, and Reedy Church. Anyone have any?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to appoint Mrs. Kim Napier somewhere here I have her information. That's all if you need that.
Okay, can we get a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we would appoint Ms. Kim Napier to represent the Madison District on the Board of Zoning, the Board of Assessors. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, and it's approved unanimously. Mr. Underwood, do you have someone?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask the board to appoint Ms. Karen Lambert to the Board of Assessors for Reed Church.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we would appoint Ms. Karen Lambert
Yes.
to the Board of Assessors to represent the Reedy Church District. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. Do you have an appointment tonight?
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Thomas?
Chairman, I would like to ask the board to appoint Mr. George Parker of the Mattapan District to the Board of Assessors.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second that we appoint Mr. George Parker to represent the Mattapan District on the Board of Assessors. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, and the motion carries unanimously. That brings us to the Community Policy and Management Team, Ms. Wendy Sneed. Is there a motion to approve Ms. Sneed for the Community Policy and Management Team?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we would approve Ms. Wendy Sneed for the Community Policy and Management Team. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries unanimously. That takes us to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any board member would like to pull?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to pull the minutes from the November 13th meeting.
Okay. Okay. That's agenda item A.
A.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items B and C?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
It's been moved and properly second that we would approve consent agenda items B and C as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries unanimously. Mr. Seeley, you have a question about the minutes?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. In the midst of the public hearing, I had several letters that were in front, and in discussion with Mr. Thomas, and I believe Mr. Underwood, I was going to read those letters, and the hour was getting late, and I was asked if I would not read them, and I said that was fine, but it was never really put as a motion. I would just like to add that I had acquiesced and agreed to not read those letters at that point.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to differ with that. As I expressed to Mr. Seeley and as Mr. Culley has checked the minutes, I do not recall Mr. Seeley asking me to read a letter. And in our recently approved board procedures, in public hearings, board members don't read letters, because I think that would be a little unfair, because anybody could send a letter in and not show up, and it's unfair to people that show up. If Mr. Seeley had somebody to read the letter, I would have let them read the letter, but I think the board members reading the letter puts us in a bad position. Again, if he wants to put that in the minutes, he can, but if he does, I would put in the minutes that I do not recall him asking that, and I did not turn him down from asking that. I do recall telling Mr. Black I wasn't going to let him read a letter for the property tax, and if I remembered that, I should have remembered Mr. Seeley's, but I don't remember his. So your discretion is advised.
Okay, so Mr. Seeley, you're just asking that the minutes reflect that you asked to read a letter and you agreed not to read it?
I agreed not to read because of the hour being late.
Okay, and Mr.
I'm saying,
And Mr. Thomas, you're saying
I'm
that you
saying
would like
I
for
do
it to
not
say...
remember him asking.
Okay.
And I don't think it's a good policy for the board to read letters when there's a public hearing. So if he had asked and I recalled, I would have told him no, because that's not right. So if we're just talking about the minutes and he wants to put in there that he asked me to read a letter and I said no, that's fine. But if you put that in there, put in there that I did not recall him asking to read a letter, and if he had asked me, I would have told him no.
Okay, I think basically...
Mr. Underwood's got it.
Can I make a comment about this?
Okay, Mr. Underwood.
And I spoke to Mr.